Good morning. Hi, Marcilio. Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Will, a great talent. He's from the Sensedia People's team. And during the pandemic, we discovered his new talent as a presenter. So all the meetings that we have now, they are all presenter now. So let's welcome everyone, Marcilio. Yes, thank you very much for coming, everyone. It's an honor to have you with us today. I hope you have a great day. Well, we have a journey with a lot of content prepared for you today. We are going to start with this open plenary, and then we're going to divide the room in two, and then we're going to open the room again. But we're going to explain more about the agenda in a minute. For the opening session, we are going to talk about open mindset, thinking about this new way of thinking and the idea of open business everywhere. But I would like to start my presentation by going a little bit to the past, going back to 2015. 2015 was the first edition of APIX, where we're trying to talk more about APIs to the market. We invited a lot of people to present and share the knowledge that they had with our guests. And in 2015, this article was published in a Brazilian newspaper. Open banking is supposed to get to Brazil this year. I think was one of the first articles that ever mentioned the term open banking in Brazil. But at the time, what we thought open banking was going to be was actually quite different from what it became to be today. And when we were studying, thinking about new models and thinking about the adoption or how we are going to talk about this concept to the market, we were working with a possible client, a major Brazilian bank, to develop a work proposition for them. I think this was the first time we structured a value proposition connected to open banking. And this proposition that we created back then in 2015, regulation actually only started working in 2020. But the idea that we had for this major client included three main components, as you see here. The first one was exposing data and services via APIs. The second component was developing an ecosystem of partners that were all integrated and connected in the APIs. And the third component was creating a marketplace for partner apps. So those were the three components that we included in this initial proposal. Now, going into a little more details about each and one of them. The first one, data and services exposed via APIs. Together with our client, we created a roadmap of the services and data that would be exposed throughout time as the, this process gained more maturity and more trust in the models that we were using. So we would start with basic inquiries like uh, point programs, or we didn't have cash back. Basically, we only had loyalty plans back then. So balance statements, credit limits, so much more for inquiries. And then in a second stage, we would focus more on transactions like payments. At the time, we were designing this idea of consent, but the Brazilian data protection law was at its early stages of development. So later, we would include other products like loans, credit, insurance, and others. So that was the design of that first component. For the second component of the proposal, we talked to many companies that could be connected to the ecosystem. So, for example, here you see TripAdvisor. Everybody knows about TripAdvisor. So when someone is planning their vacation, at that moment, that person is going to need to buy currency or travel insurance. And the idea is for all these services to be included in this journey in a transparent, safe, convenient way, and also a way that was customized for that specific vacation. So you have car finance, thinking about end consumers. But thinking about companies, companies usually have their ERPs controlling their financial information, And most of the times, this journey is quite disconnected from the financial services in terms of payments. It's a file that you have to import on one side and export on the other side. That was the connection that our project was trying to facilitate. So just some examples of partners that could be integrated. And after the integration of partners, this bank, our client, could include in their app, their internet banking service, all the partner apps in a safe and convenient way so their clients would have a more complete experience. So we created this project and we created the design, and in the end, we call this at the time open banking. Later, we're going to talk a little bit more about the regulatory environment. This design is relatively different from what actually became reality for open banking Brazil. And perhaps calling this open banking was the reason why this project didn't evolve. Yes, we noticed that even though we were building the technology, we were going to see and actually, one of our missions today is to show you that this open positioning is has much more to do with your mindset than with technology or data. So the challenge it was not technology, and it is never going to be just about the technology. And the idea behind the project that we created for this client was that for the final user, that user would have a very customized experience at the right time and the moment they are going through that journey, if they're planning a vacation, for example, or they need to buy currency or access credit, in a way that would be convenient so don't need to keep switching between apps. For example, I need to do a simulation in one app and then go to another app. And of course, everything in a safe way. At the time, Marcilio, I'm sure you remember, there was trying to unify the accounts, but you needed to use your bank password on the Guiabolso app. And they tried to hack data from bank, right? Yes, we didn't have APIs at the time. We didn't have open finance models. So the security portion of it has also always been very important, especially when we think about APIs. The more open, the more important the security layer.
But that was the design of the project back in 2015. Fast forwarding to 2021, the regulatory model became more mature. The central bank also had a very innovative agenda globally as well and was trying to provide more competitiveness for the banking sector. And that's how we get to the current stage regarding regulatory models. Right, and we also have to think, back in 2015, we were talking about open banking, but our mission here with this opening session, let's do it like Will, let's switch sides. We don't have to run, right? All right. So our main mission is to understand that open business does not mean publicly exposing data. It's not to become Facebook or Twitter. So how are we able to think didactically about the concept of open? So there's a video from back from 2011 that explains the concept of open, and we would like to play that video. I really like this video because it's didactic and there are two main lessons. Board games are interesting and fun, but there's a direction. They're closed. And when you think about pieces, there are three characteristics. First, you can play traditional games. You can play according to your age. So when I'm a child, I play simple games, and when I evolve, I can compose with other types of games, right? This is a video from 2011, right? And Best Buy, when they opened APIs back there, they talk about that. I love the song as well from the video. So what are we thinking here? Let's try to show you different angles, different open visions through several examples. The Sensedia has the privilege of being a testimony in the market, especially regarding the open movement in the last 10 years. And we have several examples, and we have several companies here, and our content has a lot about open, not only open banking, but there are four angles through which companies are presenting themselves. First one is industry-wide. The second is embedded business. So you offer your solutions embedded to other companies, interconnected digital journeys, and also if you have an open mindset without exposing data. So our goal is for you to identify yourselves with at least one of these angles. We have customers that are, that have three of those angles. They use the digital journey, they are vertical. But the most important thing is to understand that this is not something only from the Silicon Valley. So we're going to talk a little bit about these angles to give you more material to the discussion. So the first thing is industry-wide. So these are the verticalizations. In the enterprise world where we're inserted, open banking was probably the one to materialize the idea of open without becoming Facebook. So you open APIs according to a regulation so that data can be accessed through other platforms. So the ownership of data is from the customer. So we were able to support companies, small, large, banks coming from abroad, operating in Brazil, and even other banks like Sicredi, BMG, and Banco Original who used regulation, and some of them even before the regulation, to have an open positioning and to use beyond regulation, as we say. But the action driven by regulation is inevitable for those in the market. In Brazil, we already have two regulations regarding open banking and open insurance. So almost all banks and insurers expose data through APIs with a consent model that is very well defined. Also in the industry-wide angle, we have the positioning in the market. So retail and e-commerce is a good example of that. There's no regulation that every online uh, company has to have open APIs to transform that in the marketplace, but almost all of them do. In the first APIX in 2015, when we started the event to talk about APIs, because not a lot of people talked about it, one of the talks was by C Nova, which today is Via Varejo, presenting their APIs. At that time, their goal was to have 1,000 stores selling on Sinova. At the end of the year, they finished the year with almost 4,000 stores, and they were 100% connected through APIs. Magalu, Via Varejo, Netshoes which is the biggest sports marketplace in Latin America, has over 10,000 stores selling on Netshoes, 4,000 stores selling daily. If you go there, for example, ProSpin is selling inside Netshoes, selling sneakers. Iguatemi, Arezzo. So e-commerce is becoming part of the e-commerce evolution. And considering the industries, we have that is not regulation, but tends to have regulation in place. So here are a few examples. The financial data exchange, which is an organization and standardization movement in the US. We have Tom, which is leading the FTX. We have Tom here, who's leading the FTX movement here in the US. So they are engaged. We are part of the group. We will have a panel about FTX here as well. So the market will not have a regulation, but there's a standardization about consent, model of data, and so on. In other industries like telco and healthcare, we already had standardization. So open health has a chance to become regulated, but there are standards in the community. And we had other opens, so like open delivery, led by Abrazel, which is the Brazilian Association of Bars and Restaurants. So they want to standardize the exposition of APIs to connect that with delivery platforms. We have open education and other opens like open delivery, open tourism. That's inevitable. So in my view, what will be the next open? Anytime the result has a relevant value, like patient data, banking accounts data, healthcare data, that tends to be open because data becomes more valuable. So we have here about 30 or 40% from the financial services. So you are already under the regulatory umbrella. Okay, so we talked about industry-wide, the first angle, when we get a specific industry that have different models imposed by a regulatory framework or not. The second angle is embedded business and platforms. So what is the idea of embedded business? The easiest one to understand is embedded finance. So we have different companies that have positioned themselves as banking as a service, and so they make their services available through APIs so that companies that are not banks are able to offer banking services to their customers. So for example, Banco Topazio, way before open banking, put itself as banking as a service, exposing credit information. Beforehand, they focused on direct sales to the customer, and they changed their business model to be through APIs, creating a fintech environment of other companies that consume those data and embedded a credit service in their platforms. Do you have an idea of how many proposals they have? Banco Topazio offered credit through their stores, and they had between 200 and 300 contracts per month, and that they went up to 100,000 contracts per month, pursuing white label and different channels. Banco Original was the first bank to open 100% digital bank accounts. And in 2019, they created a line of business as from banking as a service. So we have different industries, retail, manufacturing, that offer financial services, but under the hood, Banco Original is leading those movements. MAG Insurance also has interesting insurance services being embedded in other journeys. Besides that, we also have the platform positioning. So we were thinking about financial services being distributed through different channels. Here, Cielo, you've probably already heard of it. Cielo has a machine with the smart POS, and they allow for coders to create applications to run inside the POS. So whenever you're at the restaurant, and sometimes the menu can come in the POS, in the machine. The loyalty program, for example. Sometimes restaurants have loyalty programs, and you would have like stamps, and you can do that already in the machine. So they open the platform of the machine, and today there are over 250 apps to run inside the machine called Leo. And so you're able to offer, value-added service for the merchants, for restaurants and bars that use that type of POS. So this is an example of platform positioning. Of course, Mercado Libre is another example, but this is an ecosystem of different applications that interact with Mercado Libre, as well as the LO card. So you're able to insert tokenization, and there are other services that LO provides to position itself as a platform. If you can find the developers, um, you can find the developers and the APIs from Cielo because they're all public, and maybe you have the portals where you can find the solutions. For example, you have a church app running inside Cielo. There are apps about, for fluttering. There are apps for shoe stores, church apps, digital journeys that Cielo never thought being able to connect with. And talking about digital journeys, there are the examples that Kleber talked about. Let me switch sides with you. Okay, so we have different examples that are the most fun of them, which is the possibility of a company to expose data and participate in digital journeys that are not actually their own. So when you're enrolling your child on the school website, and then you have a button from Banco Original offering student credit, but the bank will only be able to do that if they have an API that connects with the school's website. So the idea here is to create journeys where companies are able to offer their services in digital journeys that are not actually their own. And most of the journeys today are digital. We plan a trip digitally. We go on to TripAdvisor, we book our hotel, we book our airplane ticket, and if someone there offers me a partner, if the bank offers me an exchange currency service, I was not thinking about that, but I will buy it because it's easy, it's convenient, it's seamless, there's no friction. I do not have to open my bank app. We have that offer through TripAdvisor. So there are several companies that are already offering it. Uh, During the pandemic, VR launched a payment through a link because I was not using my card at a restaurant. I was buying it through delivery. Sul America also offers other services through the web. So for example, when you were checking in at the hotel, you're able to also request an Uber. And you do not only have the button, you have the price, how long it's going to take, and so on. That it's all integrated. And you're only able to offer that, and Uber only does that. And Uber was here presenting a talk about 4 years ago. They were talking about, bombarding users, because if you're an Uber, you have your mobile phone in your hand. So they're able to map your journey. You can order a black car, and listen to your Spotify playlist in the car. But there are other corporate journeys interconnected here, and this is open positioning, and you're only able to put your service in a journey that it's not yours in a seamless way if you have data to plug it in. So Sul America offered their services through, a bike shop if they have the API and the button for that. So you have to think where your button can be placed and what are the journeys and channels that are not conventional where you're able to reach your customer. So what platform is your customer using and where would you like to be? So for example, when you walk into an event and your partners come to talk to you, this is one thing, but there are several digital journeys happening as well.
So the last idea is this idea of open versus private. In our client portfolio, we have clients that have been on this digital transformation journey for a long time, creating APIs and evolving the APIs. Today, some of our clients have hundreds or thousands of APIs and thousands of developers in many teams in different lines of businesses, different areas in the company with different goals, and many times with this difficulty of understanding and knowing what the company already has. So even though most of these APIs are not going to be open, how can this mindset, this open mindset, can still be used inside companies? We have a few examples of that for you. So the possibility of allowing different teams to reuse things. But for that, you need better designed APIs. So we talk a lot about API first, how the APIs are being documented, in which catalog they're going to be available, so people from other teams can also understand more about them. How can we address as well issues related to governance and management and how these APIs are going to be used? Because eventually an API was designed for a certain volume, and if it's reused in a different context, we can have availability issues. So these are just some examples of Sensedia clients that have that thousands of developers, like I said. So they have a lot of knowledge on the best practices that can be used and implemented even when the APIs are not open to the public. And certainly, I'm sure you've noticed this in your agenda, we have a legacy optimization. And this open mindset can transform that into an internal digital platform for building new businesses, for creating new products, and for connecting with new partners. Several clients of ours are going through this open journey without having a single public API. They are 100% focused on solving internal complexities because it's not simple. You have multi-gateways, API governance, and a clear roadmap for good practices, even if you're only talking about internally. So these were the four topics we would like to explore, thinking about open business. And again, removing this immediate association that we make with open banking. So I see open business everywhere. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
É isso aí.
All right. Welcome to APIX. Well, before we hand the floor to the next speaker in the agenda, we just have a few housekeeping announcements for everyone here. But before we do that, we would like to ask for some help. So Adilson, our business director for Brazil, Sobral, our director for products and engineering, Fabio Lozano, our solutions director.
It feels like
Actually, they are the ones doing all the work. So, we just have a few housekeeping announcements and give you more details on the agenda for the day. There's a QR code on your name tag, like a restaurant menu during the pandemic. So you can scan the QR code and see the agenda. But we're going to talk about what is Sensedia. Yes, I'm sure you have seen Sensedia before, but Sensedia is a Brazilian company. Today is a multinational company with offices in different countries. And we focus, since the beginning actually, or at least for the past few years, we want to enable a more digital, connected, and open world. This is what we have had saying for the past 10 years. And we do that through connectivity and integration solutions that include APIs, microservices, events, connectors, integration platforms, verticalizations like open finance, and a line of service that is very specialized to help clients at their journey when they're preparing the architecture for a more pluggable, modern, and agile positioning. So with this very narrow, specific positioning, we have got to than 200 enterprise clients all over the world. After our people, of course, this is our second biggest asset, our client network. We have more than 100 clients with us today, for example. And we were very happy to be recognized in the international market by Forrester. We have the honor to hear from one of the representatives of Forrester today. We are recognized as a leader in the world as in API management. And because of you, we have APIX every year. And speaking of APIX, what about this year's edition? Man, we have more than 1,300 people, more than 3,000 people online with us. Certainly, we have more than 4,500 people being impacted. That reminded me when we started this on the first edition. I don't remember, there was a ramp on stage, and some people were actually sitting on there because we were sold out and actually completely overbooked. So for us, it's an amazing thing. Thank you very much for everyone who traveled to be here. You are part of this in- number that is scary and so good for us. And if you're watching us from home, thank you very much, like Will said. We have the largest possible room for you prepared, and we have a lot of people standing in the back. I apologize for that. So we don't even have Sensedia staff here because we have so many guests. Next year, we're not going to have the event in this room. But if you need to stand on the back of the room or sit on the floor, this is another indication that you are at the right place because you're surrounded by people who are interested in the same things as you. Marcilio was gaining a few haters because he was managing who from Sensedia was going to come here or not. But we have sold out the tickets for 3 weeks. I have a teenage daughter at home, and she was trying to get Taylor Swift tickets, and I think it's pretty much the same thing coming to APIX. We have the Sensedia customer relation hero, which is the one who got their clients a ticket for the last week. If you have a last minute ticket, make sure that your contact at Sensedia was on talking to me every day about this. We have some new product announcements. We have Sobral with us. He leads the product and engineering team. So the main thing we have for you today is a solution to complement our API offer today, but with more focus on the end-to-end integration use case. That's exactly it. Because when we think about business agility, we know that integration is part of that. We know that some scenarios are not as simple as we would like them to be. So we thought about a low-code experience that adds a number of capabilities that will facilitate a faster delivery, whether we're talking about data transformation, composition of services. So we have a number of cases that will have a much simpler experience when we add this capability to the platform. So from the get-go, we have more than 40 connectors, right? Yes, and that makes a huge difference in the speed. And it is very important to get your feedback from our clients when you're going through your integration services and how this type of solution can accelerate that experience and what connectors could come next as well. Besides that, we have completely redesigned our analytics portion of the solution. This is a request that clients have been making for quite some time. They wanted to have more retention time and more flexibility to come up with different visualization formats and to export as well. This is a very strong demand for data export because there are compliance issues and it's going to help a lot with some data. And the experience is much better for troubleshooting, for finding metrics, or more technical things. We have a lot of new things in this new service. Datadog and AWS are integrated natively. Another thing, when we talk about open, one of the most important elements is the documentation or how the API catalog is going to be made available for everyone who's going to consume them. So one of the main components is the developer portal. So we have rebuilt the experience there with some important elements because it uses a headless architecture that allows you to embed this type of functionality in other experiences. And it's a multi-gateway. Yeah, and that has to do with we were talking before. Even in private environments, you have a lot of possibility of exposing APIs and reuse them. So this journey, how the APIs are going to be consumed, can be changed here. And like Marcilio said, it's multi-gateway. So we know that there are other gateways and other technologies. So we understand that governance and API exposure can be more simplified like this. And it's integrated with AWS, right? Yes. We have a few certainties in life. Death, taxes, and eventually you're going to manage more than one gateway. So it's important to focus on that. All right, last year we said that we were launching a partnership program because, again, the Sensedia solutions is not just for about us making the transformation to clients. Sensedia is an enabler of the client's digital transformation potential. So that gives us a potential of having different partners working with us. And this year, we oops, I skipped this. We have started SPIN, our Sensedia partnership program. Going to what Kleber shared about open banking, it was very nice to hear this vision becoming a reality. And it's not by chance, of course. You have led this market and you have made this happen. Probably if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't have this level of maturity that we have in APIs in Brazil like we do and like we're taking to the world. So it's great to look back and see the results we get. Thinking about this idea of open business and this integration with APIs and connection, of course we should also have integration and connections for businesses. So about 1 year ago, we established a partnership program and we defined a format and a model of bringing partners to work with us in different ways, especially in terms of the technology that can be used to deliver what's best for our clients, or even offers or services that could be connected together, or strategic alliances as well. We have a set of partners that support us in this program, and thank you very much, by the way, for joining us in this adventure. I hope next year we can have a larger edition of APIX and a larger venue, and we hope to see you there as well. And we have different partners who are here with us today. Thank you for coming, by the way. And if you are a client or if you're not a client, and if you recognize one of the partners on the side of the slide, you should also know that Sensedia is together with them. For example, we have AWS, a huge partner for us. We are present in their marketplace. So if you want to acquire a Sensedia solution, you can do that via the AWS marketplace, and that flows normally. Ernst & Young has embedded their open insurance solution in an insurance solution that we have. So the technology composition that we are creating together, and this is the type of partnership that we're looking for. We want to deliver what's best to the market and to our clients. So this is a very robust ecosystem, and what we are doing is what we consider to be best for the market and our clients. We have a partnership team that is led by Valerio, Mirela, and Maria. They are at the back of the room. And if you think you can be a partner or if you want to be a partner, make sure you talk to one of our staff members and they will put you in touch with one of our team members. Or you can, of course, access us via our website, sensedia.com/partners. Then you have all the explanation on what we expect and how this program works. And we are going to have a podcast about that, or of course, you can always talk to me. All right, let's keep moving. Can we take a selfie? These are very important people. I want a picture with them. Yeah, let's take a selfie.
Valeu, gente. Vamos para a próxima.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right. Quickly about the agenda now. So we had this presentation now. After that, we are going to hear from David Muder from Forrester Research. I'll introduce him in a minute. And then after that, like I said, we are going to divide our agenda in 3 stages. So we have innovation stage, which focus much more in roundtables. So we're going to have different panels taking place in the theater. And then this room will be divided into the global stage. The presentations will be broadcasted online. Most of them will be in English. And the experience stage on the other side of the room. A bunch of stories. Make sure you enjoy the most. We're going to have different lunch breaks. So depending on the track that you're followed, lunch break varies a little bit. So we don't all have lunch at the same time. Lunch is exactly the same as it was last year. And then in the afternoon, we are going to have a presentation by Paolo Maniveno. Paolo, where are you? It's Paolo. He's not very tall. Paolo used to be a Gartner analyst, and he was there for 23 years. So all this SOAS journey, integration, APIs, he has led all that research inside Gartner. He was one of the authors of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Sensedia has been a part of the quadrant. And then he left Gartner some time ago. He went to MuirSoft, and now he's the head of innovation and strategy at Sensedia, supporting us in this growth strategy. And he has a great presentation, a great final keynote for you. And then we have Renata from Natura talking a little bit about their transformation journey and a happy hour in the end. And just outside this room, we have another stage with deeper tech talks for about the fantastic world of APIs. So a lot of different discussion, one desk about microservices, service mesh, and others, and a stage with this agenda of technical discussions with a lot of experts going deeper into some specific topics. So if you want to learn more about this, we have product demos. Make sure you stop by. We have 2 large rooms just outside here. All right. Thank you very much for coming again.